Talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith and Malcolm MacDonald. Good evening, Mal.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. And a little bit different this week. No Gibbo. He's going to join me on Sunday morning. He's having a little bit sabbatical. And yes, I think we all need it after the last three results, Mal. We knew it would be hard. We knew it would be hard getting on the road. But the Spurs game, I think, for most people, especially the lads who I did my first live show after coming back after a week off last night with, we all agreed it was a little bit of a reality check. I think we all realise where we are. That's the reason Spurs are in the top six, and that's the reason Newcastle at the moment are in the bottom six.
Yeah. Looking back, Newcastle, the first half, I thought they contained Spurs ever so well. It was a bit of a nuisance, giving an equaliser away just before half time. It would have been nice to have gone into the dressing room with a 1-0 lead. But the second half, Steve, it was completely and utterly shambolic. What on earth happened in the dressing room at half time, I really don't know. But I was watching with a number of other football people, and everybody was saying, "What the hell's going on? What? They're just charging all over the place. Nobody's playing in their position," and we were all scratching our heads, trying to work out what the hell was going on. And whilst we were trying to find out what was going on, of course, Newcastle, they just started completely opening up in their disarray, and Spurs started popping goals in. I thought it was absolutely horrendous. It's one of the worst halves I've seen Newcastle play in a very long time. It really is, and I think it just left everybody really surprised. Really surprised.
Do you think it's because we decided to go for the jugular, Mal? We tried to attack them, and maybe that was just the wrong idea. The substitutions, people are questioning the substitutions this week. Why bring the cells on when you're playing the top six side, and you're going to be under the cosh. I mean, Manchester City had tried to do the same to Spurs at their ground and came a cropper as well. So what made Newcastle think they could do it? I mean, was it just a bit of naivety, do you think?
I don't think it was that, Steve. I honestly think they went out just completely disorganised. I don't think that they were aiming at doing anything in particular. And, at 1-1, there is a golden rule in football, and in particular when you're the away side, you come out after half time and you work and you graft like mad for 10 to 15 minutes and ensure that you do not give a goal away. Absolutely key in that first quarter of an hour. Don't give anything away. And that if the opposition are going to score in that time, it's going to be one hell of a goal, brilliantly executed. And Newcastle, they were just an absolute rabble. Disorganised, dear me, doesn't even come into it. People didn't seem to know the positions they were supposed to be playing, and players were in the wrong positions. I would, and I'd be searching for a particular player, and could I find him in the position that he was supposed to be playing in? No, I couldn't, and nor could guys around me. And we were all saying, "What the hell is going on?" And I still don't know. I still can't work it out. I really can't. It was quite beyond me and quite beyond a number of coaches that I was sat with. And, Newcastle cannot afford to play like that. But why did that happen within 15 minutes of playing really well? And I thought the first half, let's not forget that the performance was absolutely terrific. The first 15 minutes, Spurs couldn't get into Newcastle's half. And I thought, what a terrific start. It's absolutely fabulous. And to ruin it all in those few minutes into the start of the second half and beyond, I thought it was a terrible waste of 45 real hard work minutes that had Newcastle at 1 each going into the second half.
George McVeigh thinks the bust up at half time affected things. He's not the first person to say that, Mal. Obviously, there was a bit of physicality on the pitch. Joe Linton pushing over one of their players, and he just feels that perhaps the players lost their heads a little bit.
Well, if that's the case, and okay, incidents like that, they happen in football. But if that's the case, then that's where the coaching staff get the players back into the dressing room, talk to them, calm them down, say, right, okay, what happened in those few minutes before we came in here? Leave back then. Don't allow it to affect anything that happens from here, and let's get reorganized. And the opposite happened. It was complete disorganization, particularly the back four. And the back four had looked so organized in the first half. What happened at half time for them and at the beginning of the second half for them to go out and just be in such utter disarray? Don't know. I don't know. And I haven't seen the back line look anything like that since going back into Steve Bruce's time.
Yeah, it was strange. Definitely was one for the record books. One that we won't be looking back on.
Yes, but it's one that that Eddie Howe and his coaching staff, they need to sit down with all the players to ensure it doesn't happen again. They've got to get to the root cause of why it happened, get that sorted, and get it all totally reorganized, ready for Friday night.
Jasmine comes up with something a little bit different. Don't forget, if you've got a question for Mal, good night to do it, because obviously myself and Mal on tonight know John. Jasmine says, Martin Kemp of Spandau Ballet says he was on trial at Arsenal for 2 weeks, and when he was on a long cross-country run, he hid behind a bush for a rest, only to find Supermac already there chilling. Is this true, Mal?
No. I never saw Martin Kemp at Arsenal whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Saw some famous faces there, but certainly not Martin Kemp.
So I guess it's not true. That was the name of the song, wasn't it?
Yeah, yes. But if anybody were to hide behind a bush, it would have been the year before I joined, and it would have been George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there you
It
go,
would have been
Jasmine. There's your
and,
answer.
and the season before, of course, it was Bertie Mee, and by the time I joined Arsenal, it was Terry Neal managing, and and there was a regular cross country run by the training ground, and I was told that Bertie Mee, he would hide in a trench, and he would count everybody as they jumped over his head that was in the trench, and one or two of the players left their feet dangling as they jumped over, and gave him a few studs across the top of his bonds.
Tom says, with Willock being ruled out of the Wolves game, do you expect Bruno to take his place?
Yeah, I didn't understand the team selection generally against Spurs. And yes, Bruno is the obvious player to come in. It was sort of mooted that that Bruno he'd been away, he had played international football, long journey, and yet Wood, he went, played games, longer journey than Bruno made, and he came back and he was straight in the side. Bruno, when he did come on, he looked fine. He didn't look affected detrimentally in any way whatsoever. And so I was surprised that Bruno didn't start. And you can't say, well, he's still acclimatizing. He's, it's big time stuff down in London, playing against Spurs, big stadium, and what have you. You know, Bruno, he's played in all the big stadiums over in South America, for heaven's sake. Scored a fabulous goal. Made goals as well, and looked absolutely terrific. His finish was sublime, and so again there was something I completely didn't understand. Usually old pros they can work it out, but I'm afraid that on Sunday there was an awful lot that went on before the game, at half time, during the second half in particular, and at the end of the game. I did not quite understand what was going on, and if I didn't, then I just wonder, what did the players understand what was going on?
Roger asks, do you think that the disarray was partially the lack of leadership from Shelvey as captain? There's a few players
really
getting a bit of criticism. But...
Yeah, Steve, I understand the question. I understand it being put to us, but no, nothing to do with Shelvey at all. All of the disorganization was happening in the back line. Everything was happening, was all going wrong, was in disarray in the back line that had looked so much better in the first half. It had looked organised. It was pushing up. It was getting into contact nicely with midfield and making it so difficult for Spurs even to get into the Newcastle half. And so no, it wasn't that. I really don't know. Maybe there was something that was causing it that we should never know about, and of course, people will never speak about it from the club itself. It's one of those things that's going to leave us all to die without ever knowing. But I just found it bizarre. I found it a really bizarre time. And I talked to the coaches that I watched it with, and they coached at all different levels in the game, and they were seriously scratching their head you know, and that nobody was actually coming up with, well, have you thought about this or thought about that, which might have started making sense. It didn't. Sense had gone out the window.
Next question that we have from people in the chat is from Blue Rhythm Boys. His question, Mamal, did you ever have to wear an unusual one-off sock or short colour, or were colour clashes not considered an issue back in the day? I can't get over those gold shorts that Newcastle had on at the weekend.
Yes, it's happened. Usually it's all well organised beforehand. There can be some naughty tricks that managers might have got up to years ago, but these days it's all so highly organised that I remember taking my Fulham side to Lincoln City, and Lincoln City, they played in, basically it was white with a bit of red, and we had taken our second kit. We couldn't play in the white because of it, but our second kit was red, and we had talked to them on the Thursday and said, look, this is the situation, and we explained what our shirt was, and they said, no, there won't be a clash, not at all. But of course, when we got there on the Saturday, they kicked off, you know, and Murphy was the manager, who later went to Derby, and so I just had that little feel, you know, before we travelled north from London. I just had that little feel that there could be an issue made of this by Lincoln, and so Lincoln, and all of this was happening in the referees' room, and Lincoln produced a yellow and green strip that it was for their juniors, and so it was all like 2 sizes smaller than what the senior players would normally wear, and the referee said, well, I do see their point, and I said, okay. I said, well, as it so happens, we've got another set of kit. So I took it through, and the referee said, well, there's nothing wrong with that. And it was our blue training kit, and it had numbers, little numbers on the chest, not on the back. And every player had a number for their training kit. And so so we wore numbers 2 to 12, all the outfield players, but they were little numbers just here on the chest. And Lincoln kicked off like crazy, saying, well, how are our players supposed to see the numbers? And the referee, I should always remember him, he just said, the numbers are for my benefit, not your players. And I thought, oh, that was brilliant, at the way he just put them down. And so, yeah, we played in the training kit and got a 1-1 draw, and our season went from strength to strength from there, and we finished up getting promoted. Believe it or not, the last game of the season was that we played Lincoln at home on the Friday night, the next day being the last game of the season. And so our game was brought forward because it would have clashed with Chelsea. And so we finished up drawing, and all we needed was a point to get promoted. Lincoln had to beat us for them to get promoted in our place. And so we were promoted, and I thought, that serves you right for being so petty at the start of the season, and just trying to get us to wear junior kit that would have inhibited the movement of the players. So fairness won out in the end.
He who laughs lasts
Yes,
longest, definitely. Yeah.
correct, absolutely. Steve, couldn't agree more.
Alan takes us in a different direction. He says, "What's your memories of appearing on Superstar in the 70s, Malcolm?" So some of our younger viewers won't remember Superstars. It was great. It's where sportsmen from different sports used to compete against each other, and a bit of a decathlon, wasn't it? Different sports you used to take part in.
And you had to take part in, I think it was 10 events. You couldn't take part in your own sport. And I fell somewhat foul of this rule, because when it came to the cycling, we had to do a lap and a half of the athletics track, and the cyclists would start on different sides of the stadium, and the fellow that I had been selected to ride against, he was a speed skating champion. But before he moved to speed skating, he had been a cycling champion. But he was allowed to cycle because his current sport was speed skating. And so we had to do a lap and a half of the track. I had done just over half a lap and he had finished. He was just phenomenal. He went like an absolute rocket. So but loads of other memories. It was absolutely fabulous. I met. It afforded me that wonderful opportunity to meet true greats in other sports. Agostini, 13 times world champion 500cc motorbike rider. Angelo Nieto, 4 times world champion of 250 cc's. Jochen Mass, Formula One driver from Germany. Willy Steveneurs, great basketball player from Belgium who played over in America and was one of the great players over there. And oh dear me, it just went on. I absolutely loved it, and it was nice to just sit down over a meal and talk other people's sports and what have you, instead of it all being football. Absolutely fabulous. It really was. It was a great competition. It was a shame that they didn't continue it, because I did other programs. The one I just talked about was my first ever, and I was playing for Newcastle at the time, and it was over in Malmö in Sweden. I actually won it, would you believe? And I was really chuffed about it. And they were a great set of lads. They really were. There's always the odd one that they were all sort of all wound up when it came to the events, but and they were usually those coming from the amateur sports that they would get really wound up about it. Professionals have that way of doing it really well, but in a relaxed fashion.
Yeah. George Bainbridge says Saint-Maximin should have rolled on the ground. The Spurs player moved his head in an aggressive manner and he would have had a red card.
Oh, now, just on this, I'm pretty sure that there was a story in the paper, and it was just in the last 2 days. So we have well and truly missed April Fool's Day. But I saw a story in the Mail. It was just a very short thing saying that Newcastle will listen to offers at the end of the season for Saint-Maximin. Now, I'm sure that Newcastle United supporters, an awful lot of them, will be going, shock, horror. But I'm not surprised about this in the slightest, because Saint-Maximin has proven over and over and over and over again to me. He is a one-trick pony. And he just looks to run and run and run and run and take on defenders until he loses the ball.
His stats aren't very good, Mal, when you look at them in
shocking.
general. I mean, for somebody who is considered to be an attacking midfield player, you need to look at the goals and the assists, and they aren't very good.
Yeah, when you play against top quality sides that Newcastle face week in, week out, you have to mix your game up. You know, otherwise defenders, they just read you. They read you like that. They'll have seen videos, and if they just see Saint-Maximin just running and running and running, without looking up, getting his head up, having a look, making a pass, playing a 1-2, getting a cross in, having a shot, all of those things, he doesn't do that at all. He just runs and runs and runs. And I shall never forget against Norwich at home earlier this season. I'm pretty sure it was this season. And I watched him run all the way across the pitch. And Norwich played 7 at the back, all in a line, a back line of 7. And Saint-Maximin, he just ran all the way from one side to the other, turned round, came all the way back, turned round, and started going back again. And I thought, well, take them on. If you're going to do this, you've got to look for that little space and get through. And he wasn't doing it. And the problem with a player like Saint-Maximin is that the other players, they realise that he's not going to pass. So they say, well, if he's not going to pass, I'm not going to make runs. It's pointless because the ball never comes from him. And so in the end, he kills off the rest of the Newcastle team. He just switches them back to 0. And so if you were to ask me, would I be happy to see him gone? I would first of all want to know, do the coaching staff at Newcastle feel that they can broaden the game of Saint-Maximin? Because no doubt he's got an awful lot of skill, lots of skills. If they were honestly to say, no, he won't listen, that we work with him through the week, but then it comes to a match and he just goes out, does the same thing week in, week out, then I would say he's got to go. Got to go, get the money in, and let's create a team that can be invincible. It can grow to be invincible in the coming years. Saint-Maximin won't be a part of that. Can't be a part of it because he all he wants to do is just go on individual runs. That's all I see him doing. And also what actually makes this even worse is that at the end of it, he lies down on the ground for 2-3 minutes. But I've been running about. Everybody else has now got to go defending and chasing here and chasing there, me having given the ball away.
True.
That's the situation with Saint-Maximin.
I'm not going to disagree. I've got to be honest. You give.
I know you like him as a player, Steve.
It gets you out your seat, but I agree with you 100%. His stats are there, and I think
he doesn't score goals. He doesn't make goals.
You can't defend the indefensible, and at the moment when the chips are down, he lets you down. And
if his game could be expanded, if he could mix and match and bring other qualities out onto the pitch with him, I would say, keep him, great, yes, must do. But I don't think he's ever going to do it. I really don't. If he hasn't learned now, and he's been in the Newcastle side for what, 2.5 years? Yeah, about that. And he's learned nothing. Learned absolutely nothing. And it's all been there to learn. and
Yeah.
so I'm not sure that the fellow can be helped.
Interesting summer ahead. Big thank you to our sponsors as always. Thank you to Spider Miner. And Spider Miner is the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy. And it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245 and a Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to Arcot Interiors, based at the bottom of Heaton Road, for all your kitchen necessities. You can Google Arcot Interiors. They come up at the top of the Google search list. Thanks also to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks also to Cleekai. Meet the new Game Over screen. Drop into a Cleerun device near you. Available on Apple Store, Google Play, and cleerun.game. Also, check out jabsignature.co.uk. And thanks to Media Arts for all the work on the videos that we put up on the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, please hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. You can subscribe for free. Please hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, again, which is free. Click share to your social media and drop into the comments box to post a message to me and Mal or to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and on Spotify and on other podcast providers. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show. And if you do subscribe to the channel, don't forget to go to NUFCmatters.com to claim your free car window sticker. You just need to go to the website and let them know that you have subscribed. Please go to the food bank as well. The Matchday Bucket is at nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to make a virtual donation to the food bank. Of course, 3 home games coming up. Please make sure you pop up to see Steve Hasty and the guys outside the stadium at the Gallagher end. We've also got a couple of events. Tomorrow night is the Alan Shearer event. We've got a limited amount of entry-only tickets, £100 a ticket to see Alan Shearer at the Barracks, which is at St James's Park. And there is one table left of £950 for 10 people. NUFCmatters.com for that table. And don't forget, myself, Malcolm, John and Holly, this Saturday will be at the Marlborough Social Club in Newcastle from midday. Tickets are still available from newcastlelegends.com. Pop along to see me, Mal, and John and Holly as we talk about Newcastle United's latest result, of course, against Wolves after they play on Friday night. I will be back tomorrow, of course, with Holly. That will be at the slightly earlier time of 3 o'clock because I'll be doing the Shearer event tomorrow night. And then on Friday, we will be doing a 3 Amigos show. Myself, Steve Hasty, and Neil Mitchell will be live again at the slightly earlier time of 3 o'clock. And it'll be an hour and a half show, but it will be live. Saturday, we'll see me and Mick Lowe's. And then on Sunday, for 1 week only, me and John will be chewing the fat together on Sunday. So a full week still, just slightly rearranged. And looking forward to talking Newcastle United, of course, with all of those people over the coming days. Don't forget as well that after this show tonight, it is Wednesday, so we see the return of the show which we launched a few weeks back, and it's starting to become quite popular. It's called News of the World. I'll be joined by Lee Davies, Patricia Devlin, and tonight Androgynous. So we will be talking about a whole host of different things tonight. So if you like a bit of news and you want to come on and talk current affairs, pop on. We will be live between 7 and 8 tonight. Gordy is the next question. He says, would Malcolm buy 2 strikers in the summer?
Well, I might buy more than that with the money, the right kind of money at my disposal, because for sure it looks like Dwight Gale will be on his way, and And in all honesty, if there were any opportunity of offloading Chris Wood, I think I would. It might sound a bit harsh, but he's really not convincing me at all. Really not convincing me. Last week he was away playing for New Zealand. He scored, and he comes back to Newcastle, and he doesn't look as if he's going to get a sniff at goal. Not a sniff. So, and that could be one of the problems that led to the rout in the second half. That players are getting frustrated that they knock it up front and it's just coming straight back. That there's nobody up there holding up possession, allowing the back line to get pushed up away from goal as far as possible. So certainly 2 strikers, yes, on the understanding that Dwight Gale will go, a minimum of 2, but possibly I would look to offload Chris Wood and bring in 3 strikers in all. Of course, it depends on whether Eddie Howe is going to continue no matter what, or who his personnel are, that he only continues with 1 up front. You know, that I think there are times when Newcastle, they could do with having 2 up there.
Dave says, how many players would Malcolm actually sign in the summer?
It really is the impossible question to answer. It depends on you have a first team squad of 25 in the way that the current rules work, and therefore you need so many goalkeepers, so many fullbacks, so many centre halves, and so on and so forth, and therefore the comings and goings are that you finish up with 25 in that first team squad, and so it all depends on the comings and the goings, goings in particular, as to how many deals you look to do. When I was managing, I was never a one for having mass change, because once you've got the players that you know and you can trust, and particularly when they're young, you know that they're going to be better and better and better as each year goes past. And so it's not as if you've got senior players that if you get promoted, they're not going to be able to do it in a division higher, and therefore they need to go and you need to replace. But it's all different now. Newcastle need to start next season with 25 players, and they need to be filling all the holes that are necessary in all the different positions.
Okay, next question is from Blue Rhythm Boy. He says, who does Mal rate as a striker in the modern game from any club or country?
Well, there's loads. There's, you know, if you look now at the European games that are being played, there's a whole array of different types of strikers, but by heavens, they all serve great purpose for their clubs, and so it's lovely to watch them. It's lovely to watch these clubs, the way they can just intersperse the players. You know, that one will go up front and then drop deep, and somebody else will fill into their position. There's a number of terrific players about at the moment, but Well, the game, the game is it's so interesting on how on how a side develops and how managers look to use forwards. In the main, it's playing one up front. That's what most clubs are doing, and yet there are midfield players who are very good attackers who can push forward into an attacking role, and I find it quite fascinating these days, particularly with the European competition, the stage that we're at right now. You know, I absolutely love the both games that were played. Both English clubs, Liverpool and Man City, they're quite different matches. The football was quite different in both games, but still, nevertheless, absolutely fascinating. Liverpool, they played 2 and maybe 3 up front. Manchester City play 1. But then they mix and match as the game goes on. It was very interesting watching Atletico Madrid. Boy, have Manchester City got a game on their hands in the next stage of that. Liverpool look comfortable, very comfortable. So I have no doubts about them getting through.
Okay. Have you ever had fish and chips at the Harbour View at Seaton Sluice, says Diamond Tints?
My wife and I speak about those fish and chips from the Harbour View at least once a week. Yes, we would have them regular, and what I can tell you is, quite honestly, my wife and I only ever needed one portion of fish and chips between the two of us. The fish is huge, absolutely huge. A massive portion of chips to go with it, and that was Carol and I well and truly looked after for an evening meal.
Well, Diamond Tints, if you're the manager there, I might come back in. It's a while since I've been down there, but I have had fish and chips at the Harbour View too. So
the best going, and not just the northeast, but along the south coast and the east coast and all of it. The best I've had, I have to say.
There you go, Harbour View. You've had enough publicity that you've had it now. Michael says, Malcolm, how many points do we need and where will we get them? And Tom says, question for Malcolm, who do you think will get relegated this season? There's a big game tonight, of course. Burnley play Everton, 7:30.
There is, isn't there? Ask me the question after that game.
Okay.
Although I had the feeling, you know, that those in the bottom 3 will ultimately be the 3 that are relegated. The reason why I say that is if you just quite simply look at the last 5 games that each club has played, Norwich lost 4 out of the last 5. Watford lost 4 out of the last 5. Burnley lost 4 out of the last 5. Everton lost 4 out of the last 5. Now, those figures mean that there's nothing changing. In the last 5 matches, that the bottom 3 have only added 1 point to their tally. And so by the time the end of the season comes, which I think is it 8 games or 9 games? So there's only 2 sets of 5 games. Well, if they stay true to form, those 3 at the bottom, they're only going to add 2 points to their tallies. Maybe 3, maybe 4. But they're not going to get 9 points, for heaven's sake, and put Newcastle under pressure. So Newcastle, I think they're safe now, but really I would say to them, you need to get at least another 5, 6, maybe 7, just to be absolutely sure. But I cannot see those bottom clubs, any of them, getting more than 6 points in what's left on current form, that is.
Newcastle are certainly going to play their part in where the title goes to and who goes down, I think. So it's going to make for an interesting end to the season.
Well, it is. And also Newcastle, they've got a vicious run-in to the end of the season. And the last 4, oh dear me. And for it to have such a climactic end to the season for Newcastle, where it could be a real 6-pointer at Burnley. Wow, what a finish that's going to be! And after the 3 games of Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool that Newcastle have to face prior to going to Burnley, so it could be a real tight, squeaky bum end to the season, but somehow I don't think so. I think Newcastle have now, they've done enough, but another half a dozen points wouldn't go amiss.
Jasmine Black says, has Malcolm ever persuaded his manager to sign a player?
I have persuaded a manager not to sell a player, and that was Frank Stapleton. Terry Neal was the manager at Arsenal, and I got wind that Frank was going to be sold to Luton, my old club. And I went to see Terry Neal and I said, you mustn't do this. You are going to lose one hell of a player. This guy, I said, he's a rough diamond at the moment, but just for heaven's sake, leave him with me for a couple of seasons and I will polish him. And I could be quite cruel to Frank because the pressure was on. He had to learn and learn quick. And so he got some right old rough treatment from me. But the beauty about the fella was that he just wanted to learn. He wanted to improve. He wanted to be the best. And so all I had to do was wind him up, really. And it all just happened over the period of a 12 to 18 months. And what a player he finished up. What a player. Oh, my word. Absolute joy for me to play with and all the other forwards that followed at Arsenal and at Man United. And, of course, when he played for Ireland, he got a lot of caps there. He was an absolute joy to play with. Lovely fella. Really lovely man. KC says, if Everton get relegated, would you go for their striker, Calvert-Lewin? I've seen some horror shows from the lad. And if Everton got relegated, no, I wouldn't. I'm very loath if I were a manager of a club, I'm very loath to buying a player who's just been relegated. It doesn't work. They're absolutely flat. They are relegated because their players aren't good enough. So why buy one of them? Leave them to get relegated and for them all to prove themselves if they can, and then maybe have a look. But no, I wouldn't touch a player that had just been relegated. Not at all.
Okay. Malcolm, do you think playing Wood in a 4-4-2 system would help his game, as most of the time he has no one near him? I mean, Wood is coming for a bit of criticism. People saying he's overpriced. But, I mean, you on previous shows have said time to maybe bring Dwight Gale in alongside him and give him a chance. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So do you think we'll see the best of Wood in a 4-4-2?
I think possibly so, yes. Wood is
maybe
not
with Callum Wilson.
Sorry?
Maybe with Callum Wilson.
Oh, when he's going to be fit again. And of course, you need to have another forward good enough to go in, because Callum Wilson, he can't guarantee you a full game. And so you need, with Callum Wilson in the side, you need somebody on the bench who can come on and replace him. And I really do not think that Wood is capable of actually playing that single role forward game on his own. He can't do it. And I didn't see how New Zealand played, but for Wood to score, New Zealand to do fairly well. I know it was only the Solomon Islands, but nevertheless, let's not, never talk of an international side as only that. So, did Wood play as one of two forwards in that side? I suspect that probably that was the case, and I feel that yes, he could do with somebody to operate with up front, but Eddie Howe might be reluctant to do that. Taking a player out of the midfield might sort of might be seen as weakening the midfield, and therefore you solve one problem, but you make three others.
Yeah. David Cook says, Malcolm, was it you who introduced Derek Wright to Newcastle after knowing him from Arsenal and Fulham? I went to school with him, says David.
Oh, really? Oh, well, what happened was Derek Wright was an apprentice at Arsenal Football Club when I joined them from Newcastle. And he was a fullback, a Geordie lad. And he left Arsenal after a couple of seasons, and he went and played for York, and was very badly injured, and he had to retire from playing, and he went to Sheffield University, and studied physiotherapy and sports science. And I was managing Fulham, and my physio, John Clinkard, came and knocked on my office early one morning, and I said, "Hello, John." I said, "What do you want?" He said, "Look," and he was very nervous. He said, "Oh, look," he said, "I really hate to do this," but he said, I'm really ambitious." I said, "Yeah, go on. Well, what's happened?" He said, "Well, I've been contacted by Howard Kendall at Everton." He said, "And he'd like me as his physio." And I said, "John, that's a big move for you. I'm not going to stand in your way. When does he want you to join them?" He said, "Today." So he said, and so I'm going. I said, but there are players needing treatment in the treatment room. He said, no. He said, I've got to go. He said, this is my dream move. And I said, oh, well, I'm not going to stand in the way. And so I've got a number of injured players that need treatment, and nobody to treat them. And so I thought, what on earth am I going to do at this stage of the season? Excuse me. And I thought, I know what. I'll phone my old club, Arsenal, and I'll have a chat with Fred Street, who was the senior physio there. And Fred and I, we always got on ever so well. We enjoyed each other's company. And so I got through to Fred, And I said, Fred, you're not going to believe this. I said, but I said, my physio, John Clinkard, he's been contacted by Everton, and he said, and he's walked out, literally giving me 90 seconds notice. And he went, oh, that is a problem. I said, yeah, and I've got a few injured players who are desperately needing treatment. And I said, and I've got nobody to give it. I said, so at the moment, I'm trying to organise a physio from anywhere, really, just to come in and look after them. I said, because John Clinkard, he's gone. He's in the car and he's on his way up to Merseyside. He said, well, what a coincidence life is. And I said, oh, go on, do tell me. He said, well, I've just had a phone call. He said, do you remember Derek Wright, who was an apprentice and fullback in the juniors? I said, yeah, he left a couple of years back. He said, well, that's right. He said, and he said, in fact, it was 3 years ago, and he was badly injured playing for York and had to retire from playing. He went to Sheffield University, and he's just phoned me this morning saying, I've come out with flying colours from Sheffield University in physiotherapy. He said, I've got absolute full marks. He said, now I'm looking for a job. I said, Fred, I said, tell him to get his backside here ASAP. And so 3 hours later, Derek Wright walked into my office, and I said, am I delighted to see you? Absolutely brilliant. So I said, congratulations on what you've achieved at university. I hear that you've got maximum marks. He said, yes, I did. I said, well done. I said, now you've got to turn those marks into good treatment. I said, there's a room full of players downstairs waiting for you. I said, you're hired. There's your deal. And he looked at the contract. He said, oh, that'll do me. And so not only did we have a physio, but what he would do if we were a bit short, because I had a small staff at Fulham, that if we were a bit short on numbers for the reserve side, Derek would go and play. And so he would play. If a player got injured, that somebody in the dugout would run on with Derek's treatment bag, and he'd get the treatment bag, say, thank you very much, treat the player, give the bag back to the runner, go back to the dugout and get on with the game. So, and Derek, he spent a good 3 seasons at Fulham, did an absolutely fabulous job. And he said, look, he said, I've been approached by Newcastle. And I said, you can't say no. Go on, just go. I said, but you're not leaving today, are you? He said, oh, no, I'll give you good notice. And he went to Newcastle, and he's been there ever since. So that's, oh, dear me, that would have been 1985, I think, that he joined
Brilliant.
Newcastle. You know, dear me, that's nearly 40 years that he's been at Newcastle. And the fella, he is good. He's got that football knowledge, so he understands just what injuries actually are with a footballer.
Quick prediction for Wolves, Mal, before we finish.
Wow. It's going to be a very difficult game, you know this. Wolves are such a lovely footballing side. 6th in the table at the moment, I think they are, aren't they? It's really going to be very difficult. But what I'm hoping to see from Newcastle is that they put these away defeats behind them, and that we can clearly forget about them and get out and give Wolves a bit of a run round like they gave Spurs in the first half. That's what I want to see. I want to see that Newcastle side And I think there's going to be goals in it. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw from Mal. As always, a pleasure. Look forward to reuniting with you on Friday night at the Dog and Parrot, 6 o'clock. And then, of course, at the Marlborough Social Club on Saturday at midday. Busy weekend ahead for all Newcastle.
Look forward to it, Steve.
Look forward to it, mate. Take care. Thanks for joining us, Mal.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.